What up, everybody? I'm here with my man, Valley Fly. Now, I've been on his channel quite a bit for the news review, and we've always wanted to do something together, so I did this video. This is the first time Valley's going to be on the channel. Make sure you give him a warm welcome.
I am debuting on the Dorky Dad channel. This is a historic day for me, my friend. March 2nd, 2023. Mark the day, guys.
Mark the day, and we're doing something super upbeat. Is there hope for Marvel Strike Force? Yeah, there is.
Yes. Short answer, yes. Short answer, yes.
But we're going to get into
Click
the pros
subscribe.
and cons.
Thank you for watching, guys.
That's it. We're done. We're going to go through some of the pros and cons since basically the monthly event started and since the Apocalypse year-long event started, if you want to call it that. And we'll draw some conclusions. We'll try and have some fun with it. So let's go and jump into that.
I like it.
And here we are, guys. We're going to start this off with the sugar, with the pros. I have here what I thought were some of the pros. I'm going to run this by you, and you let me know if I'm crazy or if you agree.
Yes.
And I think you got to start off with the Scourges themselves. I thought the Scourges were really well done for Morgan Le Fay, for Rogue, and for Archangel, especially when we talk about nodes 5 and 10. Now, before you talk about minions, we're gonna save that for the con section, okay?
Okay. I don't know. I think they were really done for the 3 horsemen. Morgan was a little different, though. Morgan was a little tough, but I don't know if that was a bad thing. Did you like the difficulty of Morgan Le Fay?
Well, the difficulty is kind of what it is, right? But what I was referring to was like the teams it made us build at the time, not anymore. Having to build web warriors now is bad. But at the time, needing web warriors to do nodes 5 and 10, it was okay, right? Because that was your bio team. It's what you built.
Yeah, and the good thing about these Scourges, you mentioned on a news video, a lot more people were able to unlock these characters. You know, the traditional unlock of having 5 stars for all these unlocked characters, less people were able to unlock these legendaries in the first one, but, you know, being able to do these Scourges and get that unlock initially, I think was a very positive thing that this Apocalypse chase brought about. More people getting these legendaries, some of these meta endgame characters. Yeah,
and that's what Omega Red was symbolizing, actually, is the removal of that old legendary system.
That's right. I was like, Omega Red was a few years ago. That's okay. Now I get it.
Everything's a symbol. And then for Unlimited, having to build Young Avengers, it was a tough pill to swallow at first, but you probably agree with me now. Young Avengers, they're a really solid team for Crucible,
that was a great build.
For War, they're fantastic.
Yeah, I didn't want to build them, but after I did, I'm like, oh, this team is awesome. I was using them everywhere for like 3 months, and still using them nowadays, but not as much as right when they were new.
Yeah, team. They're kind of in that comfy spot now where you're not using them every day, but they're still a team like, I need to put something on defense. What can I do? I'll throw Young Avengers in there, and it might catch a win. For Death Seed, having to build Bionic Avengers was similar to having to build Web Warriors, right? It was your tech team, and then Wakanda / War Dogs. Well, everyone has them built now for Crucible, so that filled 2 purposes as well, and it doubles up as a war team. So I thought the team selections needed for that, again, we're not talking about minions yet, we'll get there, was good for us, right?
Yeah, I like the teams that we had to build. There's a lot of good things that these Scourges brought about.
Yeah, and then I got Apocalypse here. Now, my opinion on this kind of changed a little bit, because I did a collab with Goofy, and he told me that he's still 5 characters away from getting the baby Apocalypse on day 1. How are you looking on baby Apocalypse?
I am 3 characters away, but I heard that if you do one of these Scourges, the sagas, the heroic, the hardest difficulty, you're getting a bunch of ISO 8 level 4.
Okay.
If it is the amount that people told me on chat, I will have that after I'm done with that. So I'm like 10 gear 17 pieces away from unlocking those, if that is true. But as of right now, 3 characters away.
Oh, perfect. That's not bad at all. Yeah. So maybe Goofy done goofed. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how much Goofy's spending nowadays. That that I do unlock all these characters. I do buy all these initial offers for these characters. So I don't know if he's also still doing that.
That's very true. So at least in my opinion, I like the idea that more people are going to get Apocalypse on day 1 than say people got Dorm or Doom. Right? That was like a 6 month to a year long adventure for some people to get it.
Yeah.
So like the same day Tando Mac gets it, we might get it. And that's kind of cool. Yeah. And that's kind of similar to like the legendaries, right? How, for the Horsemen, we got the Horsemen the same day that the Krakens did, which is kind of cool.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good thing. I think there's a lot of positives with this. One of them is the accessibility of all these meta endgame characters. More people are able to get it rather than the old system.
Yeah. Okay, and now reworks. So we had a lot of good reworks for a lot of the best characters in Marvel, not necessarily in the game, but just like Iron Man, Black Panther, Captain America, Scarlet Witch. No, wait, not Scarlet Witch. We'll take her back. We might talk about her in the cons.
This season of Crucible, she's actually not that bad. She's pretty important with her specials. So she's got a little buffed in this season 2.
True, but on the whole, reworks kind of been on point for the last year and a bit, eh?
Yeah, and you got the 3 characters there, 3 iconic characters in Marvel that were bad for so long. Now Iron Man is useful. Captain America is part of the rebirth, and the best character on the Wakandan / War Dog is OG Black Panther. So all the iconic characters, or all 3 of those that you have there, good characters in the game.
And I mean, maybe Scopely should revisit, Wolverine and Spider-Man and Scarlet Witch, but they is okay. Like, there's another year coming up. Crucible,
yes.
Crucible. It came out in the last little year and a bit, right?
Yes.
I think it's been a massive success. Just like Scourges, I've never seen the community get as involved in theory craft, and whenever it's happening, there's always people messaging Discord like, hey, like, what should I do here? And what do you guys think about this defense? So I think it's really driven a positive engagement, whereas like, I don't know, a Kang Blitz event is not really the positive engagement.
Crucible, I've said this for a while. It's the most fun game mode that I play in Marvel Strike Force. It's also the most frustrating. I think because I enjoy it so much that when something doesn't go right, it has more stakes for me because I enjoy it that much. If it was like War and I miss a War attack, I'm like, okay. But Crucible is like, it means something if I miss an attack. So because I enjoy it. So I love that game mode.
True.
And it frustrates me a lot.
Cool. So we're even on that. I like that.
Yeah.
And now monthly events. Now hear me out. Monthly events.
We're stuck in a good section, right?
Yeah. But we're talking about the past. Okay, so monthly events started good. Like the Spider Woman.
Okay, I'll give you that. Yeah.
Yeah. There was gold promos. There are like 50 gold promos, hundreds of dark promos. There was 180 shards guaranteed. There was Gear Tier 16 pieces, which at the time, people were still climbing for Dormammu. They weren't trying to get Gear Tier 17 yet. That hadn't been introduced yet. So those gears were very, very valuable. And the events to complete the monthly events weren't crazy, and they weren't, I don't know, auctions. We might talk about that later.
It's a little different. You were able to grind it, and as far as grind, I don't mind if it's grind. The spending events, these milestones that are uncompletable unless you spend a lot, I don't like that. But yeah, the first 2 or 3 were really good as far as what they gave for the rewards. It did change after that, but the first few were very, very generous, and I did like that you could grind for a lot of good stuff in the game.
Yeah, so Spider-Woman, Dazzler, and Thor, Jane Foster were great.
In fact, Jane Foster,
great. And then this one's gonna hit home for me and you, okay? The Gamma team. It's so good to have fun Hulks in the game, and they're just good everywhere.
I make the argument Red Hulk's the best character in the game, best standalone character in the game, because he takes out whole teams by himself.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. Now, the reason I isolate the Gamma team as opposed to the other Horsemen is because I think Darkhold was a mistake. When they put that 100% resistance in Morgan's passive everywhere for all modes, it made them a little overbearing. Unlimited X-Men, they're kind of flat. And then Gamma came along. And I think Gamma was the best example of a super dominant team in their mode in War. And then they were still good elsewhere, but it wasn't stupid good.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think the Gamma had any reworks. Where Darkhold had a bunch of reworks, Unlimited had a bunch of reworks. Gamma came out, they had no reworks, and they're still very strong.
Yeah, they're good. You sweat them when you have to face them in Crucible. In War, it's very particular how you can take them out. And I think they carried that energy. I think they learned very good from the mistakes of Darkhold and Unlimited. They did really good on Gamma, and they carried that over to Deathseed. I think Deathseed is another very well-balanced team. They crush it in raids. They're the kings of raids for sure, and they're good everywhere else.
Yeah, I like both of those two teams. And I like the other ones as well, but I think the other ones are balanced for other game modes, like you're saying.
Yeah. Okay, and now Wong. So Wong was the last Blitz release character. Maybe me and you...
Was he?
Yeah.
Was he?
Yeah.
Man, it's been so long since we've had that. I don't even remember.
I know.
I'll take your word for that. I don't remember.
But that's what. So this might be bittersweet for me and you. I think for the whole of the community, Blitz releases no longer being a thing is good because me and you, we can get 1% by blitzing every single day, or 8 rotations for whatever during that time, being super careful, flexing. I mean,
to be honest, you could do like 6 rotations and get a lot of shards with the old blitz system.
Exactly, but that there was a block, right? Because you're competing against other people for top 1%, and the rest, it was better than some of the events we have, like Agent Venom, which we'll talk about. But it was kind of unfair to new players and mid-game players who maybe started a little bit later. Is that fair to say?
I think at the whole of the game, you're right. On a personal level, I did like those blitz releases. It wasn't a lot of thinking. It wasn't as much grinding as we have to do with these current blitz milestones that we have to grind way more for than the previous blitz release. But that may just be where I'm at in the game. You know, having a larger roster didn't have to do as much. Where someone that started a little newer, they'd have to do a lot more and not get as much. So I think that the current system is a little more fair. It's based more on activity than your roster size, but I like the old one.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
I didn't have to grind as much with it.
I'm 100% with you. For me, it was great. It was 242 shards guaranteed.
Yeah. Jeez.
We talked about the Omega Red.
I wish we had that.
Yeah. Speaking of old, outdated models, we talked about Omega Red. The old legendary system kind of stunk. Again, kind of like Blitz for the vast majority of the game. You didn't unlock the legendary the first go around. And then it took 6 months to bring them back.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would spend on these characters just so I can make content. So normally I would get them on the first run, but it does suck when you have these characters that you don't have access to. They're in the meta for the long time in the game, and you feel like you're missing out for 6 months for Omega Red because you didn't get them on the initial run. So yeah, they did improve a lot with these scourges.
Yeah, and finally, what I think is the biggest pro, and this isn't to throw shade at the OGs. So like you, Mobile, Remenex, Goofy, Heartgrave, Boyle. There's so many. I'm gonna forget to name someone, so I'm gonna stop naming people. But the new breed of content creators coming in, not just Purple Sticky, not just Pathfinder, not just Run 7, but the Jutsies, the Benny.
That's why they're yes. Okay, I was like, how come you have a Pathfinder logo on your infographic? Well, all right, that's why he's there. Okay, that makes sense now.
All these new Twitch creators, all these new YouTube creators, they're coming in. You know, we lost a couple people. We lost Tony Scangili. We lost, we got rid of Casino. We lost, other people that used to cover the game. Philosopher
quit. Yeah. It was fun.
Mick Mole's gone, right? So we lost a lot of the OG content creators, and we have a new breed coming up. They're really fun. They love doing collabs. They're always in each other's Twitch streams and in yours and in mine, and they're helping out, and it's all fun. And I think it's a very positive time in the content creator space, which helps build a community and kind of makes the game a little bit more fun. What do you think that's fair to say?
Yeah, and I think a lot of newer content creators that you mentioned, especially Purple Sticky, Pathfinder, Run 7, are very positive about the game. I think it's very easy to be negative about the game. There's so much we complain about, the decisions they make, but at the end of the day, we got to remember, this is a game. This is supposed to be fun for us. And, so I want to create content that's fun. And I think these guys also do that. So I like that.
Yeah, I think they do an amazing job at that. Okay, so there's our pros. We had some good moments here. We smiled. We reminisced about the good times. Okay,
all right, I'm ready for the salt. I know it's coming. I got it all ready for you, Dorky Dad.
So here you go. The cons.
Morgan Le Fay, Rogue, Arkin, all of them.
It didn't change much. There was some good and there was some bad that came with everything. All right, so Morgan Le Fay, for me, and let me know what you feel about this. She was the first character that gave 100% resistance to her team everywhere, which in a strategy-based game for me took a lot of the strategy out of the game. Because if you can't land debuffs on her, you can't control her. Her damage stat was crazy, her kit was crazy, and then you couldn't control her. And so it was just kind of like mirror matchup or death. And now we have some teams that answer that a bit better, but they've also been kind of laying into this resistance thing a lot. Like for the Hulks, 200% resistance, but they learned from it, like we were talking about, where it's only in war where they get 200% resistance. So you can control them in Crucible and you can bring some strategy to the table. And then, we had that Crucible season where there was 500% resistance on Hero Mutants. And that was horrendous, right?
Wait, a long, 6-month season? It was a long season. It was a long one.
Exactly. So that's what I mean. Like the Morgan Le Fay kind of ushered in this like heavy resistance because we're too lazy to make sure you can't control our character. with our new character with the tools we've given you in the past. So that's why Morgan Le Fay on the con list there, but I think it's minimal compared to the fun we've had with her.
No, I'd rather have Morgan Le Fay than not have her in the game. So I think that's good. But they have a history of not really balancing their characters. We go back to the Eternals. We look at them. They're planned to be a 5-person team. They release a 2, and they're like overpowered everywhere. Years later, we still don't have the 3. We still don't have the 3 other Eternals because I guess they didn't play test them. Same thing like Morgan Le Fay in multiple game modes and see, all right, these guys are a little overpowered. Maybe we shouldn't tune them this hard. So I think that's more of a lack of play testing from the devs than just sticking that in our kit. But yeah, either way, True. It was it's a tough situation when they overtune these characters like that.
True. Like I love Morgan Le Fay's kit. I think they could have just made that 100% resistance, maybe like 50% resistance, and been okay. But I think you're right. She's definitely a net positive.
I think the biggest thing though that it did was make a lot of people, instead of use that striker class on her, which she should have been, switch her to skirmisher just to get that extra focus to get that resistance. I think that was the worst part of it.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing more people go back to striker for Morgan Le Fay. So I think we're sort of done with that, but I think that was the biggest effect of that extra resistance is using the wrong ISO 8 class or the non-ideal ISO 8 class just to get more focus.
Exactly. So now we're not doing the mirror matchup anymore. We can get away from it, which is good.
Yeah.
Unlimited X-Men. Listen, Rogue and Gambit are super fun characters. That team is hot garbage. It sucks in war. In Crucible, it does not have the same weight Gamma does in War, for instance. Like in Crucible, I've seen people beat my Unlimited with Dormammu and Secret Avengers. And on a 100k punch-up. And I lost my mind. Somebody in my alliance lost to Dormammu, Kestrel, Shang-Chi, and I believe it was 2 Weapon X characters, which is like, okay, they're throwing 3 teams together, but this is supposed to be the Unlimited team. And they made them so bad that in the first season where we had them, the 6-month drought where Crucible started to lose that magic, they had to give them a 50% damage buff and a 500% resistance buff so that people would think they're good.
Oh, and let's not forget the like 2 or 3 reworks before that season even came out to make them even better, to make them even like people want to use them in Crucible. So they were they got done a little dirty. I mean, showing how much they've fallen off. I've seen a big punch up Death Seed taking out that full the Death Seed, the raid team taking out the Crucible team with a huge punch up. That's how much they've fallen off in Crucible.
I lost a Crucible to a Death Seed punch up into my Unlimited. So Unlimited, not my favorite team. Not my favorite team.
I like them. They don't perform very well, but as far as the like thematic wise, I like that team. They're not what they used to be. They're not good in every single game mode like they were.
Yeah. So Death Seed. I love the Death Seed team. I hated that they made us level minions for it to get it.
Oh, the Scourge itself? Yeah. It didn't seem as bad as I thought. I even went in the wrong team. I think the ideal was the Ravagers and the Mercs. But I went in with the aim, and it was painful to build them up, but got through it. And I think a lot of the complaining that we did about that made them retune those nodes, because I don't think they were supposed to be that easy as when it first came around. So I think all that complaining we did about that was good, but we still had to build them. That didn't feel good.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's just having to build them up, even to just like crawl through the nodes, that sucked.
Auto through the nodes.
Auto through the nodes. Yeah, that's true. Apocalypse. Let me ask you, Valley, how far are you from having ISO level 5 on all your characters?
I don't have ISO 5 on any characters.
See,
I'm
that's
struggling
a problem.
for number 4 for a few characters.
You see, that's a problem. That you can understand that's a problem. So people are buying Ion 5s through the auctioned events, and that's fine, except they're not giving anything unless you are in the top 1% on these events. And these events, you have to spend to be in the top 1%. You just do. There's no amount of hoarding that's going to get you in there. Well, some will get in, but mostly it's people who are buying at least, $20, $30 worth of energy or cores or whatever the case may be. How is anybody progressing towards the big boy apocalypse at the current rate besides, Krakens and whales? And dolphins?
They're not.
Yeah.
But here's my hope. They were very, very stingy with all the resources on Dark Dimension 2. Then more people got Apocalypse and they started to ease it up. They were very stingy with that with Doom, Dormammu, then they started to ease it up. So I'm hoping once more people get the big Apocalypse, and I don't know what that threshold is for Scopely. Maybe they're tracking that. they'll start to ease up on things, and more people will be able to get that. But yeah, it's going to be at least a year for me to get a big apocalypse at the current rate that they're doing. But hopefully this year, once people unlock apocalypse, they'll start to ease up on that.
True. So whales,
I'm
Krakens,
crossing my fingers though.
We appreciate your sacrifice. Thank you so much for getting it quickly so that they can give it to us sooner.
Yes.
Bugs. So, I mean, there's been quite a few interesting bugs, and one in particular that we talked about just a little while ago on your news video was their statement that, you know, don't leave your alliance until we've paid out. Well, in the Trial of Strength event, it took them 6 days to pay it out, and they had already crossed over a weekend. So they held you hostage for 2 weeks and basically said, if you leave your alliance, you're not going to get those rewards. Now, they had to backpedal on that because we gave them so much trouble for that. But now they're still going with that messaging. The new messaging system.
In a data mine, it's probably going to be released in a game like that, to be honest. But it's currently just a data mine at this point.
But they also did that for red stars, right? So it used to be for the red star orbs, if you open them up, then they give you full compensation. Well, one time they just decided, no, we're just done doing that. We're not going to do that anymore. Which, I mean, that's fine.
I think that's proper. They shouldn't have done that before, and they'd create a problem. So I'm glad they solved it now. It only took them like a year later to solve it correcally, but
that's it.
Actually, maybe more.
My point is they started a status quo, and now instead of being like, we will not make that mistake again, their messaging was, no, you have to make sure we don't make that mistake again, because otherwise we're not going to do this for you anymore. So
they're lazy.
Bugs.
They're lazy.
Yeah.
We know that. We've been playing this game. They're lazy. They're lazy devs.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's established. So there's a little bit of a bug issue. It's not like the game's unplayable. So I mean, there's a con there.
There were, and now it's not. But there were times there were just chase for apocalypse when it came unplayable many times. So
that's true.
There was a lot of bugs during this chase. You just mentioned some recent ones or some recent bad designs, things like that. But yeah, oh my goodness, we've had a lot of bugs last year.
I guess we're gonna have to wait and see how buggy Apocalypse is when he comes in a few days.
Well, they've revamped their whole system, right? They said they were revamping their whole things. They're their harshest critics, so no more bugs. That means no more bugs. Right, Dorky? No more bugs.
For sure.
No bugs in Apocalypse.
Okay. Speaking of Apocalypse, the old big bad Ultimus.
Okay. I thought we were moving. Yeah. What? Who?
Ultimus.
He's
the guy on the splash art for the Alliance War. He just represents Alliance War.
Okay.
He's not a real character in the game.
I was wondering. I see that guy all the time. Yeah, this guy, that blue. Yeah, I don't know who he is though. I see him on the splash screen. I didn't know who he was.
So he just represents Alliance War, because right now Alliance War is pretty much the best it's ever been to do big punch ups and to kind of just enjoy having your offensive tools taken into the defensive tools. But the problem with Alliance War is what it's always been, is it's super time gated. If you're going to be competitive, you and your alliance all need to be on at the same time. If you need to race to finish, again, you need to all be on at the same time at a random point in the day, whether it be 9 o'clock in the morning if you're in zone 1 or 3 o'clock in the morning if you're in zone 4. So it's very dependent on who you're playing with, what your availability is, and because it's whoever clears first or whoever really starts to clear first and takes all your offensive rooms, they're kind of going to win. So that's the con for Alliance War. Now, there's so much potential in Alliance War. Why I included this, because I wanted to run something by you. How would you feel if Alliance War took a lot of aspects from Crucible, where instead of it being first to win or first to clear wins, it was some sort of efficiency base, probably not as stringent as Crucible is, because, you know, you're doing one person as opposed to 24. And they took out offensive rooms. So like just removing any kind of race from Alliance War.
I mean, that would make it better. That solves the time issue that you mentioned. I have 2 other issues with Alliance War that aren't as bad once I went casual. So maybe the hardcore players maybe don't get, but it's the matchmaking. The matchmaking is one of the big complaints that I got from chat, because, you know, you're in a high level line. You're used to facing these high level stuff. Some of the matches are all over the place with matchmaking. And then the second thing would be rewards. Rewards are really, really bad right now. So I'm like, if we lose, we win. Pretty much the same thing. So I'm not really compelled to play that. So for me, those would be the 2 biggest things. But making it efficiency based would solve that time issue, which is another issue that a lot of players had with Alliance War for a long time.
All right, so I think we figured it out. What they need to do is give an incentive to win, but not to the point where it would break the balance gap if people win too much or lose too much.
Yes.
And take away some of the gating. We fixed it for you, Scopely. Make Alliance War great again. Let's go.
And just that time thing is it takes a lot of time to do all the 12 or 14 battles. And, if I have to do them at a certain time, I just, whatever, I got real life to do. So if I could do this at my time and my pace, I think that would solve some of the issues with Alliance War.
I agree. Okay, let's move on to the second row.
All right. What is that? I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is either. That gray thing. I never see that. I used to see that a bunch. And I never see that. What is that gray thing that is on that second row, Dorky Dad?
Those are the mythical dark promotion credits and gold credits. You probably recognize them.
Promos. Tell me more about this.
You probably recognize them from their brief appearance in the monthly events of last year in the Spider-Woman.
We did talk about yes. Okay. Yeah, the first few. Yeah, okay. I haven't seen a lot of them since then.
Yeah, so I mean, they're just squeezing a lot of the resources that they made us familiar with getting it. Like all of a sudden, for a couple months last year, I was like, oh, I have another 6 red star upgrade I could do. Oh, I have another one. A couple weeks later, it was like, oh, I'm actually like really growing my roster. It's a lot of fun. And then they took out the dark promos from the monthly events. And then 2 months passed by, and then they took out the gold promos. And then 2 months passed by, and they took out 150 cores from the calendar. And they're just taking stuff away. And we're just sitting here watching like, we see that, right, guys? But they keep it's like my kid going to the cookie jar, and he's watching me while he's taking the cookies out. But then he's running away, and he's coming back, and he's watching me like he thinks he's invisible. But it's like, no, Scopely, we see what you're doing. Like,
I mean, it's an endless cycle, right? They take away stuff because they want to make more money. They take the stuff away, players leave, and then they like, oh, we don't have as many players. We got to squeeze out more. They keep squeezing, and players leave because it's just this bad cycle that they're in with all these events and everything like that. I would think the strategy would be get more players, make them happy, and I'd be happy to spend when I'm happy. I did that in the past. I do that with Marvel Snap right now. I'm happy to spend because I'm happy playing, but not as much. Not with the stinginess of Marvel Strike Force. I do certain things, but I don't spend as freely because of the
squeeze.
Greed. Yeah. Yes.
You play jiu-jitsu. You participate in jiu-jitsu. It's fun to squeeze, but it's not super fun to be squeezed.
No, but you gotta learn that as well. You gotta deal with that as well.
Oh, okay. So Red Hulk. I love the Red Hulk team, but having to build up Asgard and Ravagers sucked real bad. But there's a silver lining because there's also Avengers in there, and now Captain America got reworked, Iron Man got reworked, Hulk got reworked. You can still build up Thor. They can give a fat Thor skin, and then people will build him up just for that. And maybe we'll get a Hawkeye rework for a new skill team coming up, right? Like that would be really cool. That. So it's a con that you have to build up Hero as Guardians and Ravagers right now, but there's kind of hope. You could just do Avengers and settle for whatever you get, right?
So when I built them up the first time, I thought they were good. They seemed like they were good. Like, yes, Hero as Guardians built them up. And then they're a war defense team. They get countered so easily on war defense. They're not good on Crucible defense. So looking back on it, I'm like, that was a horrible build. But at the time, I was like, oh, yes, the Asgardians reworked. I finally get to use them. But yeah, they suck. They suck right now.
They're so slow. They're
horrible. Yeah.
All right. So that's it. And then we have Wong. We talked about this already. Look, I'm glad Blitz releases are gone for most people, but for me and you, I missed the shit out of them. I loved getting 242 shards.
Yeah.
All right. We won't spend too much time on that.
I guess, it's con for me, but I guess it's a net positive for the rest of the community, the entire community. So, yeah.
So Kang events, pretty bad. They've been pretty bad.
The spending in this spend event. Only spenders can participate in this content here. No new content unless you're just buying these offers.
Exactly. The Kang Hunt event in particular was super egregious to me because you needed a 7-star to be able to complete it all. But not just on Kang, on all of them, which if you do the math, if you're generous and you say it costs $500 to level up a character from 1 star to 7 stars, $500. So that's $1,500 to be able to compete in this event that ran before the Kang release even started. And it had so much rewards. And the only thing I have to say about that is it's a Kraken appreciation event, which is fine, except there's a much easier way to do that. You want to show your Krakens you appreciate them, put an offer for 20 Kang shards and 500 ISO level 5 T2s, whatever they're called, and charge $20 for it. Because if it's in the offer section, me and you will look at it. We'll be like, oh man, that's pretty expensive. I'm not gonna touch that. But when you put an event with the campaign mapping, now I'm looking at it almost every day. Like when I go in there to farm the hard node, I instinctively do the super one because I'm used to doing that for campaign events. Yeah. And then I'm looking at this uncompleted campaign event every day.
With the red dot on it, so you have to like, what is this red? Oh, it's the event I can't do. Yeah, that sucks.
Exactly. So for me, it was very gross. It was clearly a Kraken appreciation thing, which in theory is fine, but there's a much better way to do that without kind of showing off to everybody else, you know.
Another good thing is eventually, if you did unlock Kang during the event, which you had to grind very hard for, you could get some of those catalysts in that middle difficulty. But yeah, for that top difficulty, unless you spent a lot, you're not doing any of that stuff.
Yeah, I agree. And now, new monthly events. post Jane Foster. The A-Bomb event in particular was egregious because that was the first one where they did orbs instead, and that
was horrible.
Yeah. Just like for Kang, where you can possibly do 8 rotations and not unlock them with terrible RNG, there was the same thing with A-Bomb, where if you got the minimum RNG for all the orbs, you just wouldn't unlock A-Bomb.
Did you hear about people doing all the monthly events, completing everything, and not unlocking Abomination during his event?
Not unlocking him because they bought A-Bomb, the people that I roll around with, right? But not getting 100 shards. Yeah. I had somebody who got, I think he said 95 shards or something like that. Like he just didn't get 100. And he was like I bought him up
bad event design.
Exactly. He bought him up to 5-star, and he thought through the monthly event he can get him to 6-star because he had like 20 or something out of 200, and he just didn't get it. And he was like, "What the hell?" So that was bad. And that was a spender who was like, "Really though?"
Well, they learned from that. They started including some shards after that, but then they're fluctuating again. Back, and it's and then after the January thing or after the December thing, they went back and no shards again. So. Exactly. I don't know what they're doing.
Exactly. So monthly events, and they're taking stuff out, like we talked about. They took out the gold promos, they took out the dark promos. And my big gripe with it is when the monthly events first started, the gear tier 16 pieces were highly coveted because we were all still doing Dark Dimension 5. We were going for Dormammu.
Yeah.
Most people have Dormammu by now. Why haven't they been upgraded to gear tier 17 pieces? Giving 3 gear tier 17 pieces out once a month. How is that going to break the economy? Like that's what made the monthly events the most exciting for me, even as like a spender. I was like, oh, this is going to help me get Dormammu faster. So if this would help people get into those sagas faster, people would be more excited for these monthly events, especially near the end to get to them. It's just very weird that the monthly events are still addressing old bottlenecks that aren't really as big bottlenecks anymore, but the new bottlenecks, there's no excitement on how to clear those.
Yeah, I agree. It's they're not updating their game as I mean, we could even go back, not just the monthly events. Let's look at the challenges that haven't updated in years. And they're just not updating things as regular as they should. Every time they make a change, they should look back and see everything that affects. But again, they're lazy, so they don't look at all the effects of everything.
True. Okay. That's our pros and cons. So
okay.
What is your overall feelings with the game right now? Are you like, I'm still loving the game, it's fine, everything's fine, nothing's on fire, or somewhere in between, or are they closing doors? Because a lot of people are saying like, oh, they're just closing up shop. They're taking the copper out of the walls. They're trying to shut her down. What do you think?
I don't think they're doing that. I think there's too much money to be made, and they have too much of a long-term plan, and there's too much money behind this game for them to be shutting it down without anything. So I don't think that's it. I don't love the game, but I do like the game. I still play this every day, and there's modes that I enjoy. It's not just for the grind and the collection. There's modes that I enjoy, like Crucible. Certain arena battles and certain chases I do enjoy. Just the competition of that. But there's a lot of issues in the game right now, so that I hope Scopely learns from the mistakes and continues to move forward, and we get a better and better game. And hopefully they listen to the players and actually make the changes that the players want.
True. Okay, so two big themes that we kind of got stuck on here: the Scourge system, the Apocalypse. How did you feel about that in particular? The year-long Scourge with Apocalypse.
It was not as fun as chasing for Dark Dimension because I could build the characters I want. I could base it on the resources I have. Whereas for the chase for Apocalypse, everybody has to build the exact same characters, and that's boring. I don't like that part about it.
But Scourges?
The Scourges are good. The Scourges' release method for these individual horsemen are good, but the just chase for Apocalypse. You know, I see the Horsemen as more of legendary characters and Apocalypse more as like a Dark Dimension-esque character. So not as much of a legendary, more of a Dark Dimension. I'd rather them do something more like Dark Dimension, giving us a little more freedom, a little more choice, rather than everything cookie cutter for Apocalypse. But the Horsemen Scourges, I did like all that stuff.
So I see what you're saying. So in your mind, and my mind too, actually, they kind of like they merged the legendaries and the Dark Dimension system into one event.
That's what I feel like they did with this, yeah.
So what if they took Apocalypse out and they had like Dark Dimension 6 or whatever, but they kept the Scourge system as the new legendary unlock structure? So instead of like
that,
yeah,
I
so
like that. And even if they want to make some horsemen required, make some required characters, give us the freedom to build the other characters that we want in our roster based on what we want, what game modes we like, and what teams we like. You know, I want, you know, it makes sense to have these horsemen unlock Apocalypse, right? But all these other characters, you know, all these horsemen that we have to build, Scarlet Witch, Phantom X, some of these not as good characters, it just doesn't feel as good. And I didn't have to do that in Dark Dimension. Or if I wanted to, I knew that I was investing in a bad character, but I was doing that because it was a cheaper character to invest in and sacrificing using a better character because of the expense. So I like to be able to make those choices, and I think they can combine the best of both worlds if they wanted to.
Yeah, fair enough. Having to build a Scarlet Witch up who costs like 5 Gear Tier 17 pieces up is not nice. It's not nice.
And Iron Man, who's one of the most expensive legendary characters in the game, it didn't feel good either.
True. All right, so okay, so separate the Scourge from the big bad and let us build appropriately how we want for the big bad. I love that. And then monthly events. So I was actually a really big fan of monthly events when they first came out for all the reasons we talked about. I love the Gear Tier 16 pieces. I love the gold promos, the dark promos. I didn't know the value of dark promos when we were first getting them. They ended up being super important, right? And then the 180 shards guaranteed. I thought, yes, a month is a long time to get that, but we had that before. We had the Captain Sam and the Strike Pass. That was a month long. We had Cloak and Dagger, right? So I actually was a big fan of monthly events and the first way they were brought to the game. But now I shudder every time a new one starts. Like I'm just
it's not necessarily the monthly events is what I'm hearing. It's not the monthly events. It's the poor rewards for grinding for a month is what I'm feeling, and I feel that way as well. It's not the monthly events. I do like that big chase. It's just the chase has to be worth it, and it doesn't seem like it for some of these monthly events.
Okay, I agree. All right, so we're on the same page. So, okay, game's not dying. The gameplay is still fun. We both love Crucible. We like doing the Scourges. We don't like being pigeonholed into building what they want us to build, and we'd like to have some more rewards.
Yeah.
Scopely, give us rewards. Let us play with the toys. Stop being sketchy. And yes, there's hope from Over Strike Force. The game is still really fun. We're all here for a reason. Right?
Yeah. Because we like play, we like Marvel, we like the community, we like all this other stuff we like.
Okay, well, I'm glad we can end this video on a smile. So, thank you so much for coming and hanging out, Valley. I'm really glad we get you on the channel.
Thank you for having me.
This, you know what? I understand now why our news videos on your channels always run so long. I thought this was going to be like a 15-minute little back and forth, and we just started building off each other and had so much fun. We're not 40 minutes.
20-minute video. This is a 40-minute video.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, so that's going to be it for this video. Make sure you go check out Valley Fly. Make sure you like and subscribe to him if you haven't already, if you're living under a rock. Make sure you check out the news video that we just did with him. And make sure you like and share and subscribe this too. My stuff too. Support all the Marvel Strike Force communities. We're great.
All of it.
Anything you want to say?
Thank you for having me, and hope you guys have a great rest of your day and have fun. Have fun playing Marvel Strike Force.
That's it, guys. Dorky Dat and Valley Flying. I'm gonna steal from you. Fist bump. Let's go. Yes. Fist bump number 2. We're out.
Yeah, I love it.
I don't have a fancy closer like you. It's just gonna end.
That's it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Stay happy, healthy, have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.